Hey everybody. So today I wanted to do the second part of my thesis on, this is my thesis on the ontological argument. I want to do the second part of my section on medieval philosophy, the medieval philosophers, and this is going to be examining Saint Bonaventure. And so the way that I've set this section up is a little bit different than the way that I set up the other sections. Because in this segment, I kind of gave the reader a break from the sort of very hard, rigorous analysis, or when I say hard, I mean deep, rigorous analysis of philosophy, philosophical positions, and almost sort of commentating on history and on philosophy to more of a dialogical or conversational format. And I did this to be creative. I did this to give the readers a break, and hopefully this will be good, and everybody will like it and think this is good. So yeah, let's see the way that I set this up here. And actually, let me look at the table of contents to see where St. Bonaventure is. All right, so he is medieval philosophy, second person, should be on page 40. Okay, so page 40 of the thesis. All right, and yes, okay, so here we go. Let's jump right into it. So, Saint Bonaventure, little c, little a dot, 1221 to 1274 CE, Common Era. All right. Classical apologetics is often construed by contemporary theologians as having its foundation on three major argument schemas: teleological, cosmological, and ontological. If the awe of the universe is not enough to encapsulate your mind in the heavens, then reason through causation can be achieved with the study of cosmology. The ontological argument can run as a last resort only when your tastes are a priori. Today's traditional telling of natural theology, with negative leanings towards ontological proofs, would have appeared unlearned and anachronistic to Bonaventure. Therefore, the best approach moving forward would be to directly consult him for his opinion of how to properly construe natural theology. So I have a conversation now between the inquirer and Bonaventure. So I start out and I say, the inquirer: I say, dear saint, would you enlighten a weary traveler as to the road of truth regarding proofs for the existence of God? Bonaventure: That I would, dear sir, but first you must present your motives for such an inquiry. I would not want to start up a tradition of gainsaying for the simple purpose of satisfying your perplexities. Inquirer: I beg you, dear saint, think of me not as a gainsayer, but as a Christian, noble and good, wishing evermore to learn the way of the Master so as to strengthen my faith. Bonaventure: If you duly proceed not out of doubt or admonition, for it is out of doubt and admonition that you drive yourself further from the truth. And then footnote 65 here I have, quote, thus there is a danger in descending to the originals, semicolon, there is more danger in descending to the summas of the masters, another semicolon, but the greatest danger lies in descending to philosophy. This is because the words of the originals, This is because the words of the originals are pretty and can be too attractive, semicolon. But the Holy Scripture does not have pretty words like that, end quote. So this is from Arthur Hyman and James J. Walsh, The Philosophy in the Middle Ages, the Christian, Islamic, and Jewish Traditions, Harper and Row, 1967, page 458. So that was kind of Bonaventure's opinion on this. So now let me go back up to where I just left off at footnote 65, but back into what Bonaventure was saying. So he was talking about, for it is of doubt and admonition that you drive yourself further from truth, comma, then it shall be my privilege to impart upon you my reflections of the divine. And by the way, I've constructed this dialogue based on sort of the historical sort of gumption nature of how Bonaventure would talk and kind of respond. This dialogue is not a quote from him or anything. That footnote did employ a quote from him, but blah, blah, blah. So that was what Bonaventure just said, all right? So now we're going to go to the inquirer. And the inquirer says, I don't, right? I'm not seeking to doubt and blah, blah, blah. I want to strengthen my faith, okay? Now, Bonaventure. Then first we must observe the world around us. Everything that exists because it had a cause in the divine agency. Now, footnote 66. This is not the cosmological argument. Bonaventure simply means to maintain that, quote, all things in the created order are ... signs of the uncreated wisdom. Each sphere of reality must be seen in its connection to that wisdom. And this is George J.E. Garcia, Philosophy in the Middle Ages Introduction, a companion to Philosophy in the Middle Ages, 2002, probably page 4. I might have missed something else by that 4, though. All right. From this fact, I'm going back up to the 66 where we started. From this fact, we know that talk about existence in the world leads us to talk truly about those existents with a T. But to imply truth in the world is to imply truth, which is the agency for all truth. Thus, to speak of truth is to imply one who grounds all truths. Footnote 67 and 68. The reasoning at this stage of Bonaventure's apologetic is usually referenced as the illumination or imagination argument. Today, this line of thought would best be associated with what has become known as the transcendental argument for God's existence. And then footnote 68. In this way, he sided with Plato that the forms were, and I start a quote there, so I should probably say quote. In this way, he sided with, quote, Plato that the forms of sensible things were separate from the material particulars, and that's Stephen D. Dummett, History of Medieval Philosophy, class notes, probably page 105. And then I throw in another quote here. Hence, Bonaventure privileges Augustinian wisdom over and against instruction. And then, for some reason, there's a 4 there, like the number 4, but I'm just going to read 4, I guess. Aristotelian sciences, rejecting the latter as the highest canon. Oh, this may have been some textual structure. The author himself may have had like 4 of these points. So I'll kind of forego the reading of 5 here in a second. Anyways, so Aristotelian science, rejecting the latter as the highest canon of judgment regarding human knowledge. And that's from Gracia, Philosophy in the Middle Ages, a companion to philosophy. Let me get a drink of water before I continue. Alright, so, yes, alright, so, inquirer, and by the way, I put now parentheses here, and I say that this is going to be a contemporary interjection. Alright, so, what if we implement one of the following retorts? 1. Redefine our theories of reference, such that vacuous singular terms do not refer. Alright, 2. Naturalize our propositions, or 3. Negate logical entailment on some neutral, pre-theoretic, a priori ground in which every truth is already predetermined in reflective equilibrium of sorts. Strategy 2 is clearly the most promising, correct? And then here's what I do for Bonaventure. I just say, let us move on to the second form of argumentation. Consider in this way, not simply truth, but truth that bears on existence, ontological truth. Also, by the way, I want to say something. I'm pretty sure this contemporary interjection of the Inquirer is pulling, at least from for part 3, I think that's referencing Timothy O'Connor, but I'll probably bring that back up in a bit, but let's keep going. So, let's move on to the second form of argumentation. Consider in this way not simply truth, but truth that bears on existence, ontological truth. And the Inquirer says, is this not the same argument played yet again, but dressed in more eloquent apparel? And then Bonaventure, no, listen to my words and contemplate their meaning. Now, footnote 69, I put in a quote here. Just as his illumination argument uncovered God as a kind of formal and efficient cause of certitude, so Bonaventure's, and this is aeological argument, uncovers God as formal cause of truth in creatures. And aetiology is probably the study of truth here, but anyways. This is from Tim Noon and R.E. Hauser, St. Bonaventure, the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, the winter 2014 edition, and Edward Zalta was the editor. All right. So Bonaventure says, no, listen to my words, contemplate their meaning. I just read the footnote 69. Now, I'm intending to say that God must ground the causes of creaturely beings. For how is one creature to beget another, on and on ad infinitum, without there first being a transcendental agency to put into cause the entire agency? And the inquirer turns, I'm put parentheses, turning skeptical. Perhaps Aristotle is correct. Perhaps the universe is fundamental, such that it can produce matter from its substratum. And then Bonaventure. You are well versed in the ancients, but you lack the ability to see the light of modern arguments. And then put footnote 70 and 71 here. Footnote 70 is Boethius and John F. Whipple on the supreme good, on the eternity of the world, on dreams, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Pontifical Institute of Medieval Sciences, 1987. All right. And then about 71. Bonaventure, Seeger, and Thomas on the eternity of the world, and then I probably put the Latin name for that. It's Milwaukee Marquette University Press, 1964. Okay. If you still remain unconvinced, I will try then my strongest form of persuasion. Be hasty and take heed lest your mind mold. Consider my methods in 2 stages. The first, fancy yourself to talk of propositions and sentences. Remember the parts of language and bring them to bear in your mind. A sentence is composed of a subject, a verb, and a predicate. Cuthbert is loving. Cuthbert is the saintly source of inspiration for the subject of this sentence. Loving has the position of the predicate, and is has the position of the verb. And there's 2 kind of this is me putting in some commentary here. There's the Saint Cuthbert, but there's also a book, or this may be an article by. Actually, I think it is a book which Thomas Flint wrote, where he brings up Cuthbert's iguana, and so I'm kind of pulling both of those people. And I think Flint was. I might have said Timothy O'Connor. I meant to say Thomas Flint was the one who wrote that book. He talks about Molinism. He talks about Cuthbert's iguana, but. Yeah, and I don't remember if it's an article or book. I'm pretty sure it's a book, though. But so there was kind of combining the saint, but also, and that may have been who Thomas Flint was talking about. Anyways, Cuthbert's the saintly source of inspiration for the subject of the sentence. Loving has the position of the predicate, and is has the position of the verb. When we take into account all of these jobs, we get the indubitably true proposition, quote, Cuthbert is loving. Take also into consideration the writings of Boethius, who states that propositions that reference themselves substantiate their claims with more truth. Now, footnote 72 is, quote, Bonaventure has no doubt read in Boethius 2, and then Peri Herminianus, where, okay, whatever. No proposition is more true than that which affirms itself. And this is from James Minch, Bonaventure on the Ontological Argument, 1970. Okay. So that was footnote 72. Okay. I'm going back up to Bonaventure talking. So take here, for example, Cuthbert is Cuthbert. Clearly, the latter statement has more epistemic veracity than the former because it is a mere tautology. Now I go to the inquirer. I concede. What is to follow? Bonaventure. Now examine similar reasoning with God. God is God is a merely tautology. Therefore, it is invariably true. We may follow the statement God is, but God is God cannot have its truth value called into question. And then the inquirer says clearly, but what follows of such significance? Bonaventure. Consider the essence of God. God must have certain properties and lack other properties. Those properties which exemplify his character and make him great are indeed the properties which God must have. God must exist by the definition of his very nature, because existence is a quintessential property of supremacy, and God is supreme. Therefore, when we assign the nature of God to the nature of God, we endow God with existence. Now, not only does the statement God is incur his existence, but the statement God is God doubly incurs his existence. Further, God is impossibly God is impossibly false because it is a mere tautology and thereby true from the necessity of its nature. Okay, so this is kind of the end of the dialogue, and now I'm going back to commentating. We'll finish out this section here. So while Bonaventure did not explore the full modal implications of the ontological argument, the common history of said argument often graces over this great thinker. More bluntly, and by the way, when I said the common history there, I was saying the common history that people tell doesn't involve, they kind of forget or grace over Bonaventure. All right. More bluntly, studying the work of this same would have saved, or at least altered, the objections raised by Kant centuries later. In this way, philosophers and theologians were offered another escape to the Kantian criticism of existence is not a predicate. And then, footnote 73, I say, quote, if God is his own existence, the statement Deum esse can be substituted for God is God, a proposition affirming itself. And contrariwise, Deus est Deus is equivalent to Deum esse, since Deus and esse are equivalent terms. And this is Bonaventure in the Ontological Argument, 1970. All right. Whew. Okay. Further, okay. 30, okay, cool. So now I'm going back to the commentating. So Bonaventure also goes into more detail in his collations of Hexameron and commentary on sentences on the fallacies in Guanillo's writings. He also touches on the interrelations between the ontological argument and the transcendental reasoning of his illumination argument. Unfortunately, while both of these subjects are interesting to study, they are not patently pertinent to the modal discourse, or to modal discourse. Thus, the above dialogue should simply suffice to explain the folly of Kant and spark interest in this great medieval thinker. All right, thanks everybody, and have a good day.